Today, residents of Ward 58 in Johannesburg are voting for a councillor in the by-elections. A few hours from now, they'll be declaring the winner of these elections. But first, let's speak to the representatives of the Al-jama-ah political party. And now joining me to talk about the by-elections here in Ward 58, Johannesburg, is the candidate for the Al-jama-ah political party, Mr. Ibrahim Sarang. Mr. Sarang, tell us, the voting has already begun here in Gauteng Primary School. Tell us, how do you feel about the elections, and are you optimistic that you might win these elections?
I'm very optimistic that I have a chance of winning this award because of the work that I've been doing here, and the people recognize me. And hopefully, inshallah, with the grace of the Almighty, I will win it.
Tell us, how do you hope to change some of the issues that have been affecting people here in Ward 58, especially issues like crime, housebreaking, and of course also issues about drug dealing in Ward 58?
You mentioned a lot of issues, but I've been working in this area for the last 26 years. I know the problems that are facing the people, and I've dealt with quite a lot of the problems in my personal capacity. So I'm quite familiar with everything that's going on. And I have put in a vision and mission statement in the local newspapers that deals with all these problems. It's too lengthy for me to emphasize now. It will take a whole evening to do that. So there's a program in place where I can tackle all these problems quite effectively.
And now joining me is the ANC candidate for Ward 58, Mr. Mohammed Kaji, and of course he'll be telling us some of the issues that he plans to change if he wins the elections here in Ward 58. How do you hope to change some of the pressing issues affecting people here in Ward 58?
I think it's going to be difficult because the area's been neglected for such a long time. It's going to take hard work with the different agencies from the city, like Pick It Up, to clean up the filth and the grime and the dumping around the areas. It's going to take work with the JRA to sort out the pavements. Just looking behind you, you can see what some of our pavements look like. In terms of parks, it's a big issue, you know, having accessible parks that our children can go to and play in. I think that will need community support. It might also need some community funding as well. When it comes to some of the capital projects and investments in the ward, the city is going to ward-based budgeting next year, so it's imperative that we get a good budget in for the city in terms of capital investment. And I'm told that in the last couple of years there hasn't really been good budgets that have been put in for the ward. So I think it takes a combination of hard work on the part of the councillor in terms of following up on things that haven't been resolved.
There's one huge problem in Mayfair, the problem of crime, and the other problem of drug dealing. How do you actually plan on eradicating some of these major problems?
Look, in terms of the major problems of crime, of drug dealing, of also bylaws, you know, bylaw infringements and those sort of things, you need to have dedicated police officers that can work with you, right? The CPF of the Joburg Central Police Station is very active, works very hard. You know, we know Brother Abdullah Navlaki, who's the chair of the CPF. And the reason for the CPF is so that there's community policing. You know, the community plays an important part in terms of reporting suspicious behavior and following it up. And then the CPF is a forum that can directly interface with the police departments to plan operations and those sort of things. The mayor has also announced the 10 Plus program, which will dedicate 10 Metro police officers as well as one official dedicated to the ward from each agency, such as roads or parks or power and those sort of utilities. So I think that team would also play an important part, because if you have 10 dedicated Metro police officers, one for crime, one for bylaw enforcement, one for health and safety, you know, then you're able to know the ward better. The Metro police officers will get to know the communities and get to know who different people are to speak to get information and intelligence about what's happening. So, you know, it will take work and cooperation between JMPD, between the councillor, between the CPFs and between the the South African Police Services.
Two final questions before we let you go. One is previously the DA actually had taken over this constituency, Ward 58.
Right.
Do you think you might snatch back this seat from the DA? And one last question is, what happens if you lose the elections? Will you continue working with the community?
To answer your last question, yes. I'll continue to work with the community. I have been working with the community and I will continue to now. And in terms of the election, I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be a very close election, but let's see what happens in the counting.
And joining me now is Osman Cassiem of the DA, who is contesting in the by-elections here at Ward 58. Well, Mr. Cassiem, there are so many problems in Ward 58, especially things like crime and drug dealing. How do you plan on eradicating these issues, that is, if you win the by-elections?
Should I win the by-elections, one should firstly realize that there's a diverse community in this ward. Secondly, the issue of crime. This ward currently falls under 3 police precincts, namely Langlaagte, Brixton and Johannesburg Central. My plan is to get these police forums and station commanders together so that we can work together to get rid of crime, drug abuse, drug selling, drug peddling and all other illegal activities.
Well, the DA has been criticized by some people in this ward, such as the Al-jama-ah, and they claim that the DA hijacked some of the projects that were reportedly initiated by them. I don't know how you'd react to this.
My reaction would be that the cleaning of the Blue Dam was initiated by the previous Councillor Zaytoon Waja. We just did a follow-up on it. As far as the issue of the Scouts Hall is concerned and the building of the wall around it, that was initiated by public funds, but after an oversight was done by DA councillors.
I'm Hassan Islo reporting for ITV News in Mayfair.